Today, I have partnered up with my friends over at Shoptagr to do a little bit of update to the guest bedroom situation. This was my first room makeover ever, a little less than a year ago. I'll link it for you guys, and I think it's actually kind of crazy to say that, given how many rooms we've done together now. But I love seeing the progression and the fact that I have the inspiration and the confidence now to be able to come back and tackle a larger build, which I'm going to walk you through. There are a ton of different DIYs that I've implemented into this space that I've made lengthy and detailed YouTube tutorials on for you on my channel. So as I said before, I'm going to link absolutely everything you need to know about this room down below. Because you guys actually pointed out when I uploaded this makeover originally that I put like sheer drapes in, and how are the guests going to sleep in? I swapped them out to blackout drapes, but anyways, that's besides the point. First thing I did was clean up and clean out, reassess the room, and start to kind of dive in to see what I want to do differently and what different colors I want to pull. That brings in today's sponsor, Shoptagr. Thank you so much for deciding to partner up with your girl for today's tutorial, because it is a little bit different in the world lately, so we have to kind of approach decorating and getting those items a different way. I went to shoptagr.com and joined there, and then went to Google Chrome's store and installed Shoptagr's button into my Google Chrome web browser. It literally took 3 clicks. It was so easy. When you are browsing your favorite sites, it does not have to be for home decor, but your girl, I don't really shop for clothes, so this is perfect for what I needed. I will just go to whatever website, Etsy or even Overstock, Wayfair, and just start to add it to different lists within Shoptagr. This makes it easier to have all my products in one place underneath a specific project versus having different carts saved on different websites. You will also get notifications via email or mobile push when an item you've saved goes on sale or comes back into stock. Not only can you now view coupon codes at checkout, but Shoptagr told me that they are going to be releasing a new cashback feature soon, which is very exciting. One of the reasons that I really love Shoptagr, quite frankly, is because it's like I can virtually pull items for each room that I'm making over, create a specific list for them, but be able to see everything on one page versus having to go back and forth and create like a pulled pin board of all of the decor that I'm thinking of going into the space. If you guys want to check out Shoptagr for yourself, you can actually click the link down below in the description box to download it today. While we wait for those items, I wanted to remeasure and make sure that I had everything in mind, how to fit it in the space to ensure that it wasn't gonna just be way too bulky and overwhelm what is already there. Because I don't have a bed frame at all, and the headboard is more like wall art. It's not like a traditional headboard. I knew exactly who to turn to be quite honest, when looking for a beginner build for a bed, and that's Shanny to Chic. They make it so easy for you to understand and not feel overwhelmed by it. So I started to sketch out what I was thinking in my brain based on their bed frame build. The current situation of the bed is a just basic metal frame that I don't even think we had before I shot this series with Blueprint. It was just this weird, it was just on the floor. I'll just keep it real. It was on the floor. And so that was the only thing supporting it. I'm going to remove that rug too, because I think we need to bring some color into this room. And I'm getting a little bit sassy. So I'm thinking orange, potentially. I'm not sure if you've ever experienced this, but I hung this headboard originally into the studs into the wall, and the screw completely got stuck to the point where I had to hammer it out. I'm going to patch up those holes with joint compound per the tips and tricks from my dad, because you can go back in with water and not compromise the texture of the wall. Such a pro move right here. I definitely color matched because I had the color on hand, but I didn't check the finish. So this was a semi-gloss that I put on top of an eggshell, and when you pull back the camera you can definitely see. Anyways, I moved forward and just put back the sheer drapes that I had because I love the texture, but we're gonna order some window treatments that you can pull down to black out the room if we do have guests. And then I hopped into cutting down all the lumber. That Shanny to Chic has a full cut list and a full decked out free printable plan for you, that if you want to do this build, I'm not kidding you, that's exactly what I followed. I'm just going to start to give you tips and tricks on how I was feeling throughout this whole thing, because it is kind of massive. The first thing that they walk you through is how to make legs, and you are going to be needing 3 2x6s per leg. They ripped it down to 5 inches. I just ripped it down a little bit on each side and kept them a little bit more wide to get that chunkier feel. You're going to glue them together, clamp them, leave them overnight, and then we're going to sand them smooth. Each 2x6 that you see here being glued up is 14 3/4 inches long. I do want to mention that I am using Douglas fir because I wanted to use a harder wood just as a personal preference. They use pine, which is way budget friendly. It's just a softer wood, which they stained to look a little bit differently. I'm going to leave mine completely natural, and that is kind of why I decided to go with the Douglas fir. It's the first time I'm ever working with it. The sides of the bed are made up of two different sizes of wood, basically, is how I look at it. One is going to be a 2 by 4.5 inch wide, which is the lip, if you will. It's the top of the bed frame that you will see lipping over, and then the 2 by 5 is going to be the quote-unquote wall, because we are going to be adding cleats to support, you know, the actual bed frame to go into it. Trust me, it will make sense in just a little bit. You need to leave a little bit of an edge on each side for those cleats to be able to get into place and for the mattress to fit. Like I'm trying to say, I don't want to tell you guys like I'm doing this build, here is how you do it. I'm just walking through my experience doing Shanty Chic's tutorial because it's absolutely incredible. I attached the legs via the pocket hole screws and it can hold my little booty on top of it. So I move forward to adding some finish, and Home Depot is now carrying this like flat finish, and I wanted to test it out. So I spent a couple days doing about 3 coats, sanding lightly in between. Anywhere there was a gap after sanding down and screwing everything together, I did fill in with wood putty. So when you see it being seamless, that is why it is your best friend. I used the headboard measurements from my previous like situation that I had on hand and just kind of turned it into a rectangle versus a square. I routed out the back of the 1x2 Douglas fir to create an area for me to attach rattan to, but it to not be like so far back from the top of the frame. I mitered the corners at a 45 to make it look a little bit cleaner, but attached them on the back end with pocket hole screws just to make sure it was nice and secure. There are going to be 3 different panels, and I want them each to be just completely covered in rattan. I was going to do a geometric design, but I'm getting a little bit over it and wanted to do something different. So I ordered these off of Amazon. Like I said before, I've linked everything you need to know about this entire video and the tutorials having to do with it down below in the description box, and I trimmed them down to size. To make this a little bit easier to work with, I soaked each panel in warm water for roughly 20 minutes. If you soak this for too long, I read that it can turn gray, so just be careful. I kept my eye on it, came right back in after 20. It was good enough for me, and then I decided to move forward. You do want to make sure that you have something weighted on hand to completely submerge whatever you're deciding to soak. You want to work with these while they're wet, and you want to go in and make sure that you can secure it to the inside of the headboard, or if you're even doing cabinets, Lone Fox has done rattan installation. I have a couple other friends that are currently working on something on Instagram. I'll link down below. But basically I went in where I routed out the area to place these panels to make it look seamless when you're looking at it from the, you know, the front. I just went in and stapled it, tugged as tight as I could as I worked along each edge, just to ensure that it dried nice and tight. I started contemplating rounding out the outside edges and asked a couple of my friends. They all told me to keep it straight. I think if I rounded the inside corners, I would have rounded the outside corners, but I opted to just keep it as is, step back, and really just take in the fact that we just built a headboard. And I know it looks intense, but it was very easy. This is where your girl was not thinking. When I made this headboard, I think it was way too thin because I need to support it, but I had to use obviously the same like thickness of wood. So I just secured it together with pocket hole screws, and I decided that I would secure it a little bit into the wall just to make sure it wasn't flopping back and forth. I didn't want to have to redo this whole thing, and I just had to make do with what I had on hand. But this isn't the most secure headboard, and this is my first time, so I apologize. If you think about a traditional bed frame, you have to have those supports throughout the middle. So these guys where I'm pre-drilling and countersinking where the screws are going to be, I am going to be attaching a little bit above the bottom of the sides of the bed to create a cleat for the support to go down to. Now I'm just laying out the bed per the instructions of Shanty Chic and starting to assemble, which I was so giddy about because I hate the carpet, but I love the contrast of the wood to everything else. Everything's going to be attached using those pocket holes that we drilled earlier, and assembling this isn't like crazy to do by yourself, but I definitely don't recommend it. That's when I had Paul come in and help a girl out. This is my first time building a bed, and I have to say, even like just researching beds made me feel really uncomfortable because I was like, this is just a lot larger and in charger than I expected. So to be able to be at this point now where it's completed, and just even right here, these 4 pieces put together made me sit back and realize, like, why am I holding myself back from larger builds? Like, let's get it. So thank you so much to Shani to Chic, because you gave me so much confidence to be able to execute this with how you guys laid it all out for your girl. After the bed was assembled, I went in, measured again just to make sure that everything was good to go, and cut down 2x2s to be the cleats and the support of the bed frame. Like I've said 1,000,001 times, I just want to reiterate, this is all Shani to Chic. They are the queens behind this build. I attached it per their tutorial and their plans that you can print yourself for free, and I added those supports down the middle, attaching them with screws that I countersinked directly into the side cleats of like the bed wall frame, if you will. Currently, just building a bed, and this is definitely my love language. Paul's outside. Oh, that form right now. Building a skate ledge. I cannot. My friends, is what you call the moment of truth. There's some sawdust. I'm gonna add some finish. Did we just make a bed? I'm pretty sure this means we just made a bed. Oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Okay. I attached the headboard that we made earlier via the pocket holes that we drilled, and just kind of stepped back and soaked it all in. I don't know how we just did this. I don't know. I have no clue. What just happened? Oh my god, we just did this. What? Actually, what is happening? We just built a bed. God, what? Oh my god, it fits. This is so exciting. This is so exciting.
Holy crap. Look at this thing. That's a bed. It's fucking amazing.
It's crazy, right?
Tall.
I know, I didn't realize how tall it was gonna be.
That's a great job, babe.
I mean, there's not much more to say. I was so excited about this and so proud of myself, and just kind of stepped back and thought that the sconces were gonna be way too low, and I wish I made the headboard a little bit taller and elongated to hang them within the rattan, but that just was not the case. So I installed them directly above and kind of off, like to the corner, not towards the middle, for each person if they were like sleeping in the bed, I decided to remove that like wall installed nightstand that I previously made, and decided to swap out the glass door for a geometric design, basically the exact same DIY I did for my sliding pantry door, which I will link for you, to switch out the glass to more natural wood tones to blend this all together. You guys always ask me what this like thin wood is. It's under laminate from Home Depot. I had a lot of it on hand and opted, instead of using the smallest nails that would completely go through both layers of these woods, I just put a thick layer of wood glue and started laying down the skinny pieces that I cut out of the under laminate into the design that I wanted. In order to make this glue flat, I actually added paste wax to a side of scrap wood that I had on hand, and that was larger than the piece I wanted to glue down, and clamped and weighted it appropriately and let it just sit for a full day. The paste wax helps it to pop off versus glue together. It creates like a little seal in between so that doesn't happen. When it was dry, I just trimmed everything off with the circular saw, flipped it back over, and added these skinny little pieces of wood that you may recognize from the corkboard DIY we did on Wednesday, and just added a couple as an accent to just create a little bit more texture, and reinstalled the keyhole and popped that door right back on. As I mentioned, I wanted to take away that nightstand, so I put a couple of really green plants that are easy to take care of, in my opinion, on the left-hand side of the bed. And then on the right, I kept it completely the same with the glass top that we had custom cut, because that is like an electronic system that needs to be there for our outdoor theater. So I just added a couple of accents I thought complemented that. I decided to be a little bit feisty and add orange into the rug underneath versus that like neutral jute rug that I had before to add a pop of color. And that meant I had to kind of switch up the bedding. And as I showed you previously with my Shoptagr when I was recording my screen, I was looking for those orange and blue tones to pull up onto the bed to center your eye. I think even though you might be a little bit nervous implementing some color onto a full white bed with a very deep accent wall, it pays off because you can implement neutrals, you can implement color, and then you can kind of pull it all together with like a tiny little accent pillow on the outer edge, if you will. And I understand that people are gonna be like, oh my gosh, it's way too many pillows for a bed. But right now we can't have guests in our home, so I'm gonna decorate it to the nines. But then also when the guests do come in, I don't mind removing those pillows in just like preparation for them to be completely cozy and not have to work too hard, if that makes sense. Thank you so much to Shoptagr for sponsoring today's video. Be sure to click the link down below to download Shoptagr and check it out for yourself. And also just thank you to you guys for continuously coming back, checking out the tutorials that are coming out. I know it's a wide variety or wide range, if you will, of DIY tutorials, but I'm hoping you enjoy the ride throughout this entire process. I will see you soon for another DIY.